Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The verse which is also part of the valedictory prayer, which is also, which we have seen, the commencement prayer also. May He protect us both by revealing knowledge. May He protect us both by vouchsafing the results of knowledge. May we attain vigor together. Let what we study may be invigorating. May we not cavil at each other, quarrel with each other. That was the beginning and the end prayer. And the last verse of the Kato Upanishad, here we are 2, 3, 18. This is the last word, and it sums up the whole of the Upanishad in a way. This verse also is a kind of it's part of that valedictory verse. And as we've seen, that the whole Upanishad starts with the inquiry. What happens to a person when the person dies? Some people say the person exists. Some people say does not exist. So this young boy, through a story it's been described, he goes to the god of death, and the god of death teaches him the secret, not of death, but of immortality, and shows that death itself can be conquered. So this verse sums up that essential teachings of the Upanishad. Nachiketa, having first become free from virtue and vice, as also desire and ignorance, by acquiring this knowledge imparted by death, as also the process of yoga in its totality, attain Brahman. Anyone else too who becomes a knower does, like Nachiketa, of the indwelling self attains Brahman. It's a beautiful verse, summing up everything. Mrityu Proktam, that which was spoken by the god of death. And it's not just a god of death. He also, as the Upanishad has mentioned, he was a teacher of the knowledge of Brahman, Brahma Vidya. So here he says, Mrityu Proktam Nachiketot Labdhva Vidyam Metam Yoga Vidim Chakritsnam Brahma Prapto Virajo Bhut Vimrityu Anyopyevam Yo Vidadhatmameva. So here saying Nachiketa, having first becoming free from virtue and vice. The virtue and vice is added by the commentator. Virajo. Nachiketa, before he has attained to the knowledge of Brahman, what preceded that knowledge of that he received, he became free from virtue and vice. Yes, wherever there is virtue, there will be vice. Wherever there is vice, there will be virtue. There will be this duality always. This world is made of duality. That is, he overcome this idea of dual. If I do something, either there's a good result or bad result. It's going to affect somebody positively and somebody negatively. You can't please the whole world. However good you are, you will have detractors. And however evil you are, you will have people praising you. This world is a world of relativity. Nachiketa became free from this duality, and it is designated as virtue and vice, pap and punya. Has also desire and ignorance, vrimrityu. He became free from what is called forms of death. What are the forms of death? Well, the forms of death are ignorance and desire. Desires, avidya, kama, and karma, and that leads to karma. These are the forms of death. Ignorance. So, Vrimrityu, Nachiketa became free from the forms of death. That is, he became free from ignorance. And this is what plagues us. Of course, there's a pandemic going on, but this is what plagues us constantly, constantly. This idea that we are limited beings, we are mortal beings, we are helpless, we are so and so. This all is a creation of ignorance, maya, avidya, agyana. Once you remove it, there it is. I am free from mortality. I am immortal. I am free from limitations. I am unlimited. And desires, what desires do I have? The whole universe has become my body. What desires can I have? Nothing. So this person becomes free from ignorance and desires as the forms of death. By acquiring this knowledge imparted by death, how does he become free from virtue and vice and ignorance and desire? By virtue of the knowledge that was imparted by the god of death. This is what is important. It is the Upanishads. It is only the Upanishads that will lead you away from ignorance and desire and work, samsara, and show you what your real nature is. We have been running away from our real nature. We do not want to face it actually. Many people say, I am that Atman. Yes, you are that Atman. Now what? Nothing. This knowledge has to be faced. It has to be integrated within you. And it has to become manifest in thoughts, words, and deeds. I cannot anymore behave like a mere human being. I behave like God, goddess, like somebody divine. Everything about me becomes transformed. So when I face my own immortality, people have been facing their mortality, their weaknesses, their poverty, their immaturity, their rejections, the irresponsibility. People have been facing this and also running away from this. We want to present you something more. Yeah, face your own infinitude, face your own immortality, face your own glory. Can you? If you can, you have read the Upanishads. Yes, because the Upanishads, as Swami Vivekananda says, teaches you one thing: fearlessness. Abhi, saying Swami Vivekananda says, if you see, I have taught nothing but the Upanishads. And the one word that comes, one idea that comes from the Upanishad is be fearless. What fear is there? There's no birth for you. There's no death for you. There's no old age. There's no disease. There's no decrepitude. There's nothing for you. What is there then? What am I? You are that Atman, ever glorious. We have not been able to face this fact. We have not been able to face the other illusory fact also about my own, what will I do? What will happen when I die? Who told you that? Face it, conquer it, then come forward and then face your own immortality and conquer it. This is the way. So the study of the Upanishads in all, and this is one of the most lucid Upanishads, the Kathopanishad, which teaches us the supreme knowledge through a story of a young boy who was endowed with faith, who did not want to swerve from truth. He did not want to compromise. He saw his father compromising. He did not. He was told by the father, "Get out, I'll give you to death." He comes to death. He faces death. And he conquers him by his intelligence, by his energy. And the god of death is so mighty pleased. And in order to test the boy whether he can face his own infinity, he tests him with all the pleasurable things the world has to offer, which the gods have the power to offer you: wealth, rulership of the world, celestial enjoyments, everything, a long life. And Nachiketa rejected them all as insignificant to the knowledge that he was about to acquire. This is what it's saying. That as also the process of yoga in its totality, he attained this knowledge of Brahman through the grace of the gods, through his own diligence, through the study of this Upanishads, the teachings of the Upanishad, and also the teachings of yoga in its entirety. So here you say, Nachiketa, having first become free from virtue and vice, has also desire and ignorance. By acquiring this knowledge imparted by the god of death, has also the processes of yoga in its totality. Yoga vidhim Krishna is total. Yoga, the steps towards yoga. How did the god of death teach him? Taught him the very core of yoga. Not sitting down in an asana, in the headstand, and in the warrior stand, and in the corpse pose. So he's saying, Tam yogamiti manyate sthiram indriya dharanam. What is called yoga is the control of your sensory and the motor systems. Indriya dharanam. Hold. That is the power of yoga. You hold your body, you hold your senses, your perception, organs of perception and organs of action, hold it steady. And after that, you can practice the other step. So this first step itself is called yoga. Then he's saying, yogo hi prabhavapya, because one must be diligent. Apramatta, one must be intelligent and diligent. For yoga has the waves of rising and falling. Prabhava apyaya. It rises and falls. So one has to be very diligent. And then also we had in the second book, we had the illustration given of the body as a chariot, the senses are the horses, the mind are the reins that ties the horses to the rider there, and the driver, it's an intellect. So body is the chariot, horses are the senses, the mind is the rein, and intellect is the driver. So this, once you understand that, oh, this is how, what do you do? It's the intellect that now guides your body, guides your senses. And the mind is just an instrument. Don't go to control the mind with any other thing. People try to control the mind with external things, through drugs, through anything, all the things. That is not used at all. It has to be controlled through the intellect. And what's the intellect? That intellect has to become sharp, still, firm, with the knowledge that the rider of this chariot is the individual soul. I have the individual soul at my back. Nothing is going to take this truth away. So I shift my center of gravity from the body, from the senses, from the mind, come to the intellect, and from the buddhi. And buddhi knows it received its light from that indwelling inner self. So this inner self is anyone else too who becomes a knower, thus like Nachiketa, of the indwelling self, Adhyatmam. So he's saying, Anyopi yo vid Adhyatmam. What is this? One who will know that indwelling self. What is that indwelling self? That indwelling self is infinite. So long you've been thinking of that indwelling self as limited to the body. In the context of the body, that soul there is called the individual soul. That same soul in the context of the universe is called the universal soul. And that same soul, which when the universe and the body, etc., are removed, becomes nothing but the supreme soul, that Brahman. That's the height of realization. This is the highest possible experience a human being can have. And there have been sages and saints and mystics for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman and its traditions, India has been its special stronghold. Swami Vivekananda says, the year the traditions of acquiring this knowledge of Brahman were set by a long galaxy of sages and saints. This knowledge of Brahman and its traditions are still present, prevalent in the world. There have been people, mystics of the highest class, who say, I am the truth, Analhak, I am truth. What do you mean? How can you say this thing? You're mortal, you are perishable. Say, no, I'm imperishable, I'm beyond death. And they try to kill that person. He said, no, I can't retract what I am. I am that. So this person had this experience, the highest experience, where a person transcends not only the body and the world, the whole universe, the subtle and the causal universes, becomes in touch with that infinite. That is there shining in that space of the heart. So this three spaces, the Purusha, Angushtamatra Purusha, the soul, the size of a thumb, bright, luminous, without smoke, is shining always in the hearts of people. By meditating on this, one becomes free. And this is what happens. So in that soul, which is in that space called Chidakash, knowledge space, the mind and the intellect and life itself is in the mental space. And this whole universe outside is in the external space. The Mahakash, Chittakash, Chidakash. Everything comes and fuses together. And there's that realization. And what happens to that person? That person becomes, as the Upanishad says, anyone else also. Anyone else too who becomes a knower, thus like Nachiketa, of the indwelling self attains Brahman. That indwelling self is that Brahman, that reality. There are ultimately no indwelling self and outdwelling self. There is only one self. In the context of the body, in the context of an aspirant, in the context of a kind of a knower of the Upanishads, we are speaking about as the indwelling self. There is only one. Like there is space here in the room, there's space in the body, There's space in the mind. Is there something called space in the mind? Yeah, fortunately, science is telling us that matter, as you know, is mostly empty space. So there's space outside and space in the body. And if there's space in the body, in the mind, and also in the mind, should be in the mind also. Mind also has a space. And then we have that supreme space, consciousness. It's that consciousness that shines in the mental space, the same consciousness that shines in the external space all around. We've not been able to catch that consciousness. That consciousness has to be caught here within us, within the heart. And then we realize that we are that infinite, that we go beyond all limitations, all heavens and hells and earths, all hopes, nothing, all fears, you transcend that. That is the state of liberation. So this verse says, first Nachiketa, was free from the pairs of duality, virtue, vice, joy, sorrow, love, hate, and all these kind of dualities. Big, small, rich, poor. So the one acquires poise here. And then one becomes free from the forms of death, desire and ignorance. Is desire form of death? It is desirable. Yes, we have been seeing how desires are killing us slowly. We've sought desire, desires gets hold of us and slowly mauls us, masticates us, and finishes us. Is it desires that are making us run about here and there? Desire God. That's the advice given by all the saints. If you have to desire God. That becomes devotion. That becomes bhakti. So Nachiketa was free from duality, free from the forms of death. He attained this through the knowledge imparted by the god of death, Yama. And so Yama also instructed him in the practical aspects of acquiring this through the processes of yoga. Yoga is a process of acquiring this. What is yoga? It's the concentration of the mind. Indriyam mana ekagram paramam tapa uchyate. The senses which have been controlled, the mind and the intellect become like sharp and one-pointed. And that is the key to breaking open the doors of, you can say, immortality. On this side, everything is mortal. On the other side is immortal. Breakthrough. So the process of yoga is this. Saying anyone else, it's only Nachiketa. No, anyone else. It's open for everyone. This is important. Oh, it's a one-shot thing. If it has happened once, it will happen over and over and over again. There is no something happening in isolation. If there's, suppose a person has been sitting and he suddenly gets he sees a miracle. That person, not only does that person experience, other people also should experience that miracle over and over and over and over. Nothing happens in isolation in this universe. So if you have attained this realization, you are in the same stream, same spiritual tradition as Nachiketa had it. As before Nachiketa, the god of death, Yama, had it. Before the god of death, all these other rishis, munis, the sages, they had. This knowledge of Brahman is there. This is what sustains this universe. When Sri Ramakrishna was sitting down there in Dakshineshwar, his teacher of Vedanta, the knower of Brahman, Totapuri, comes. He looks at him and says, "Will you learn Vedanta?" "Yeah, but I'll ask my divine mother first." "Okay, go." So this knowledge seeks you. Totapuri was seeking, that knowledge seeks you. We are not ready yet. Make yourself ready, and the knowledge will flow down to you. And that will elevate. This is the only way to make our lives blessed, make others' lives blessed. And then what does the knowledge do? Is that knowledge is so dry? No, no, it is just bliss and bliss and bliss and bliss and bliss and consciousness, of course. So there's tremendous joy. You'll be swimming in joy. The whole universe will be swimming in joy. It's a tremendous state, the state of oneness, where all duality, all multiplicity has vanished, and you see that one consciousness everywhere. This is the state of, and we are asked to attain that state. So this is the valedictory prayer, and also, as we have seen, Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Gunatu Sahavi. This is the 53rd verse. We conclude this Upanishad with this verse. Earlier than this Kata Upanishad, we had given the classes on Shvetashvatra Upanishad. So the long series of classes, about 60 classes. We would like to make an announcement. So since we have come down to yoga with him, we, instead of taking up another Upanishad, we want now to let our devotees and admirers and those who are a little serious about spiritual life, or how to control the mind, we want to teach you. We will give a series of classes on the practical aspects of meditation, yoga with him, the practical aspects of meditation, the practical aspects of breathing, the practical aspects of sitting down. So this course of 10 classes will start on the 25th, not as it was mentioned on the 18th of November, 25th of November, 10:30 Pacific time. So this will give us an opportunity for us to practice these teachings, to make it, you can implement, because otherwise, if you leave it on the theoretical level, it won't be much beneficial. Let this knowledge sink within. So I will be giving and also guiding you through steps of meditation, starting with posture, the basic things. You may all be sitting down. Yes, let's take it up again. So these 10 classes will comprise one course of, you can say, spiritual practices. We'll fine tune some of the things. I'll give the introductory talk about 5 to 7 minutes. Then I'll guide you in the practice. I'll give some concluding talks on what we have done. And then I'll leave some time for question and answers. This will be streamed, of course, on YouTube as well as on Zoom. We will send you the Zoom links, and those who are subscribers to the Vedanta channel will be able to get this link there. For the time being, what we have been doing, we've been streaming live these classes on two channels. One is the Swami Satyamayananda channel, and one is the Vedanta.org or Vedanta.org. We will be doing only one streaming on the Vedanta.org. So that will give us less clutter, obviously. So it will be on Zoom as well as on YouTube. They will live stream on the Vedanta.org. November 25th, Wednesday, 10:30 Pacific time.
A question, how do I register?
There is no registration. You simply come in. The knowledge of the Atman, the knowledge of Brahman and Yoga, the way we have understood it and learnt it, should not entail any kind of formality or any kind of price or any kind of nothing. You come in, there's no registration.
It's the Zoom link that we're gonna share.
Yeah, we will send you the Zoom link. It will be on our website, and
YouTube community page.
YouTube community also will be having this link. So on the Vedanta.org, you have any questions?
It's wonderful, Swami, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, it has been wonderful. This beautiful Upanishads, Kadhopanishad, is one of the simplest Upanishads. The other Upanishads are extremely difficult. Difficult in the sense we have to give it more time. And for people in today's world, they want the essence of the Upanishads, and this is what this Upanishad particularly gives it. So since we ended with the valedictory prayer about the practice of yoga, we will now continue with the practices of yoga. And we hope in this, we'll have the first 10 classes. That's one course meant for everybody. And as we proceed, we will take up higher and higher practices. I will see how the response is towards this. Then we can have a next set of 10 classes, this next, or middling, and then we have the advanced. So in this way, we can orient ourselves. It is not only meant for, you can say, the very serious aspirants, it's meant for everybody. Because as we are progressing, humanity is progressing, we are also getting in touch with our own consciousness at every turn. Our lives have become more mental than physical. And we must be able to manipulate and control this mind of ours so that we can live a happy and, you can say, healthy life.
Last question. Is it available online for people in the UK, London as well?
Oh, yes, of course. You're welcome. London, anywhere. So you can, yes, log in and there you are. You join us for a Zoom and or a YouTube, you can say live stream. So we end here for today. We see you on the 25th of November, and we take this up really seriously. And I'm sure you all will be benefited, because it was years and years and years. I was a young lad when I had started this thing, and I was taught also by a Swami. So I want to give what I have learned over the years to make your lives better. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
We are meeting next Wednesday.
I- we- We're going